The government calls it a housing crisis. It calculates that we need to be building around 300,000 new homes a year, and we're currently averaging just a third of that. Building garden villages is part of the government's solution. But these mammoth ventures, where new, self-contained and self-sustaining places are created on agricultural land, contain problems of their own. Building a garden village with maybe 10,000 houses, with all the necessary infrastructure, new schools, new shops, and new offices and places to work, needless to say, requires massive investment and will take decades to build. But here in North Stainley, 4 miles from Ripon, on the edge of the Yorkshire Dales, something rather special is happening which addresses these issues. But it's not simply about building houses, it's about building communities. And in this 10-minute film, we're going to examine how plans on 5 separate sites in the village can combine to transform North Stainley into a living, breathing, sustainable community. Not in decades, but in just a few short years. Roger Heifer is a nationally known town planner and regeneration expert.
Here we are at the village of North Stainley. Charming village on the edge of the Yorkshire Dales, surrounded by lush Yorkshire countryside. It's a village of about 290 homes with some charming features. Village green, village hall, village pub, a really pleasant place. However, there is a problem, and the problem is that it's essentially a dormitory village. People live here, but they don't work here, and they aren't able to shop here. And this is typical of problems being faced by many communities in modern-day rural Britain. Villagers don't have enough facilities to sustain themselves.
The Staveley family has been rooted in the village for centuries. James Staveley is behind the plan to create a new future.
Our aim is to try and turn North Stainley into the most sustainable rural community in the UK, or at least one of them. This is a blueprint. There are not many other villages in the country that have come from what was effectively a very small ribbon development with a higgledy-piggledy sort of collection of houses to a fully sustainable, fully integrated community, a place that people are proud to live, enjoy living, and ultimately want to continue living for the most of their life.
We just thought, what a beautiful, beautiful village, and everybody just seems so happy here.
It's a lovely village. It's really picturesque. We have lots of things going on as a community. We love it here.
We just had a feeling that this is the place where we could make the big move from Cheshire to Yorkshire for the next part of our lives.
From my work on living, working countryside, which introduced the ideas of neighbourhood planning, to my work on garden villages, the whole point has always been to create sustainable whole communities which are good for everybody in the community, whether they're poor or rich, whether they need affordable housing or can buy on the open market, whether they're young and need a place in a school, or older and need long-term somewhere they can live with care and support.
We're now next to the main proposed housing site. Really good site for housing development. It's well defined by the woodland in the background. It's close to the centre of the village. It's a very developable site. And the proposal is that this is developed with mixed tenure housing, including affordable housing. And then down here we have, on the site of this former petrol station, the location of a proposed shop, a combined local convenience store and farm shop specialising in locally sourced products. And again, the location of this is fantastic, sort of right in the heart of the village, very accessible on foot from both the existing housing and the new housing. A really sustainable form of planning.
Sustainability is about being able to almost be born in the village, go to school in the village, grow up in the village, perhaps get your first job in and around the village, develop your career in the village, and dare I say, retire in the village. So it's looking at the complete life cycle of a resident and making sure there's no leakage from that life cycle.
It would be lovely not to have to get into the car to get, like, say, a pint of milk, a newspaper, a pint of beer. It would be lovely to be able to just walk. And we do walk a lot in the village with the dog, but it would be lovely to have facilities where you can just nip, see your neighbour there, have a coffee, that kind of thing.
There's no shop, there's no real facilities. The village hall's fantastic. The school's bursting at the seams. There's nowhere really for us to do a youth club or anything like that. So the small people in the village are missing out a bit.
Ripon's only 4 miles down the road, and the Dales, that, you know, there's everything in other places, but it would be nice if there were some things that were here. You've got to get in the car to go, and even to get a newspaper or some bacon, you've got to go to West Hanfield.
Here we have an area which historically has been occupied by large agricultural buildings. Most of them have now been cleared, and we have a very uneven series of hard standings. It's a classic brownfield site, and it's really quite well screened from the surrounding area. It's a great opportunity to develop a mixed scheme with new business accommodation, which could be the sort of accommodation that's required by start-up businesses and the sorts of businesses that thrive in rural areas.
We've suffered from a number of problems, and those problems include the pub closing 5 times in 10 years. We also have the problem, obviously, with the school and the fact that its future is uncertain.
A primary school is really very much at the heart of any sustainable community, and here at North Stainley there is a very successful existing primary school. The trouble is, the building that it's in is very much in need of a lot of investment. It's not ideally located. The school has to use playing fields on the other side of the main road. They're short of space, they have to use the village hall. So there's a very strong case for having a new school provided. And as part of the plans for the development, the expansion of the village, a new school is proposed.
And the fantastic thing at North Stainley is there's the opportunity to put all those pieces of the jigsaw together to create a proper sustainable community, each part individually, not creating a whole, but put it together, a fantastic sustainable community where people can live literally from cradle to grave.
When you look at what we've created thus far, after 40 years of hard work, it seems crazy to not allow a 50-year vision to get its final 10 years down in terms of bricks and mortar. The really frustrating thing is the last 10 years make all the difference. The last 10 years deliver the synergies we need, deliver the vitality, the sustainability. And unfortunately for us, the planning system tends to look at the different sites in isolation rather than as a whole. And this is all about the whole, it's all about the sum of the parts.
This is a really extraordinary place. Working together, North Stainley Estate and Harrogate Borough Council have achieved something really remarkable. The beautiful growth of a community where you can barely tell the difference between what's new and what's old, that has helped sustain a school that would have otherwise have closed, until now a pub too. Now, it's obvious that the school is struggling. It's obvious that the community would like to see a thriving village pub, a shop where they can get the essentials, and that would make the place more socially and economically sustainable. So I hope that, again, the North Stainley Estate, Harrogate Borough Council will have the vision to see how a whole place can be created that will be a genuine national exemplar of sustainable development of a community like this.
What's planned here is a series of relatively small interventions which add up to a really suitable whole. And it's worth reflecting on the fact that whilst this is very applicable to this village, it's also applicable to a great many locations throughout the UK. This really is a pioneering model that could be transferred to many, many other places.